Film Festival van Gent, niet alleen fictiefilms, niet alleen componisten, maar ook documentaires. Een van die documentaires over een wereldberoemde Playboy, Hugh Hefner. En we hebben de documentairemaakster hier naast ons. Dat is Brigitte Berman. You met Hugh Hefner and you thought, well, this is a guy I want to do a documentary about.
Actually, he found me first because
right.
I had made a film about Big Spiderbeck, who just happens to be his favorite musician.
Okay.
And then I met him and got to know him and over the years. And at his 80th birthday party, which I went to, I decided I wanted to make a film about him because I saw the girls, I saw all the splash and splendor, and saw the Playboy, but not the other things that I did know existed about him and that were part of who he was.
Yeah.
So on the way back to Canada, I decided I'd like to make a film about the other side of Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
So I wrote a treatment and FedExed it down, and a day later he faxed me back and he said he loved it, anything carte blanche, and I would have creative freedom, which is very important for documentary filmmaking.
Is he as eccentric as people believe he is?
What do you mean by eccentric?
Well, lavish lifestyle. I think he's really wealthy and he can do whatever he likes to do. It's a lifestyle that not a lot of people can have, I think. So that's kind of eccentric.
Eccentric. Well, as he himself says, my life is an open book, and it is. I mean, and there isn't a day practically that you don't see him in the news because of his 7 girlfriends, or now one girlfriend, young girlfriend. Yeah. And he is very outspoken. He lives at the mansion, and he loves the mansion. He doesn't like to leave it. And at the same time, though, he works every day very, very hard, both on the magazine and as well on the scrapbooks, and is aware of everything that is going on in the world, and a man very in tune with much that is going on in the world. And yes, he is rich, but at the same time, he also does with his money to help and to give it to organizations, agencies like Wildlife, like Children of the Night, and that he doesn't make a big thing about. He just does it. He does it quietly, but he is who he is. Yes.
And that's kind of why you, like you said, you wanted to make this documentary to let people know that he's not only that playboy who has different girlfriends and girlfriends at the same time and whatever, but there's more to the person than that. What struck you the most in him?
One thing that I really liked about him, especially when I was going through all the scrapbooks, is that he is a man who truly values friendship, and the friends he's made over the years, they stay with him. He doesn't like to lose his friends. Girlfriends, same thing, women he has spent time with. He doesn't like to lose them as friends. He keeps them as friends. His first wife, Millie, she, over the years, she has stayed and become a friend. He has this great capacity for friendship and for, kind of keeping friends around him, which is why, in a sense, his life is an open book, but the mansion as well. Yeah. People come to play tennis, they come to see the movies there. To many friends, it's like an open door, and that is unusual for somebody to, be that generous with his surroundings. Yeah. He loves for people to come up and have a good time. Yeah. And Sundays, people come up in the afternoon. Sunday movie, the latest movies, at night dinner. Friday evenings, Saturday evenings. Monday, it's manly night, only his male friends. Yeah. And he this is the lifestyle he loves. And when he's there, yes, he wears his pajamas, and it's what he's most comfortable in, but at the same time, he is totally charming, very, very smart. You ask him anything at all about a movie made in the 30s, made in the 40s, he'll know it. It's like all up here, So he may appear to be eccentric, but he's a very, very, very smart man.
Yeah, and he uses new technology like Twitter as well, because you mentioned the Sunday matinee movies, whatever. He just tweets about it, and it's there for everybody to know. Well, okay, today we are going to see The Social Network, and stuff like that. And that's kind of it's perhaps it's this new technology that has provided for an extra level of openness for him.
Oh, I think so. I think so. In fact, he jokingly says he used to be a jitterbug, now he's a twitterbug. So,
Right.
you know, and he's twittered about the Ghent Film Festival. I was just showing them, you know.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he follows. I have to tell him where the film is showing.
Oh, yeah.
And he follows the path of the film and, you know, and twitters about it.
Yeah.
Next week we go to Chicago. The film is opening in Chicago in the States,
Yeah.
and he's going to be flying there. And so am I, and we're going to do a Q&A afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Well, that theater got sold out 2 weeks ago, but, you know, he's been twittering
Imagine,
about
yeah.
it, you know. So he's very,
Really on top of things. Really on top of
very
things. Yeah.
84 years old, you know, working every day, nonstop, and is very, very much on top of things, yes.
Yeah. So for your documentary, you must have had hours and hours and hours and hours of footage. How did you select what's in the film now, and on what basis did you leave things out?
Wow, tough job.
Can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, my very first rough cut was 7.5 hours long. And so it had everything in it, you know, and I kind of really, I put it all in sequence, and all the things that were important, that were interesting, it was all there. And that's only him talking, you know, I
Yeah.
didn't yet have put in the other people. 7.5 hours, and I had to slowly take that down. Well, I didn't do it by, you know, pulling chunks out. I did it, you know, slowly, this goes, until it kind of like a rock, you sculpted into a figure, you know, and
Yeah.
out emerges what it is finally going to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way. You have to take time in the editing to really allow it to breathe and to decide the kind of film it wants to be, and then finally put in all the other people and all the visuals,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, 9 months later, you hope, you have the product.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, when I showed it at the Toronto Film Festival, it was much longer. I wasn't finished yet. You know, I showed it to an audience,
Yeah.
and realized it was too long, the things, pacing that had to be improved. Took it out back into the editing room, and made over 200 edits, and it's 15 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
And I much prefer it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a director's cut that's shorter than the original.
That's a novelty, I think.
No, and I much prefer it. I mean, the other
Yeah.
one has disappeared.
Because other people say, well, now it's too short. There's so much to if you want to get to know the guy, really, there's so many different layers, and they would like to see an extended cut, perhaps on DVD, or is that a possibility that you are going to use the DVD or Blu-ray medium to?
I think the Blu-ray,
expand?
not the DVD, but the Blu-ray,
Yeah.
absolutely, because I have so much other footage, and I interviewed his sons, you know, they're in university now,
Yeah.
and all kinds of things that aren't in the film. But, you know, I also have this belief, no matter how long you spend on a documentary, no matter how well you get to know the person you're making the documentary about,
Yeah.
there are always elements of mystery that will never be revealed, no matter how open the person is.
Sure.
Because that's life.
Yeah.
And those little mysteries, I also think, are in the way people talk. If you watch him and what he does, his actions. Like in the film, when he gives the dog to Sammy Davis Jr. on Playboy's penthouse,
Yeah.
just to watch Hugh Hefner and his delight, to me, it says miles.
Yeah, more than
More than he
words
could.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's the same throughout the film. So, and even the way he talks and how he says something, you know, and then I use editing to kind of, you know, underline or, you know, make it even more important by what I put next to it.
Yeah.
So it's there in the little details, so to speak.
It's always the little things.
Always the little things.
What was fun as well was that really well-known people, like for instance George Lucas, had so much stuff and good things to say about you, because he's not only the owner of the magazine, but he's got political views as well, which I think in America at this moment, it's a difficult time. No?
It's a very difficult time in America, yes. And in some ways, I think were Mr. Hefner younger, you know, and doing the Playboy's Penthouse and After Dark now, I think, you know, it would be great. Because a lot of outspokenness would come out.
Yeah.
But what I really liked and like about Hugh Hefner is that he dared to speak out. When he didn't like something, he spoke out.
Yeah.
He took on the post office, the government, the Mies Commission, no matter what. Well, they took him on, but they ended up having to apologize and say he's not a pornographer. He was not afraid. And what I think is so important, like today, for America, for Canada, the rest of the world, is to have more people like that, new people like that, young people like that, who actually speak out like that.
But how does he perceive America at this moment? Is he hopeful or?
He's always hopeful. He really is. You know, But I think when I hear him speak now, and he goes sometimes with the film and does a Q&A afterwards, and as do I, and people ask him about that. The one thing that he is very concerned about is internationally, you know, how we as people get along in the world. The world has become so small, and as people we need to get along much, much better than we can.
Yeah.
And what are the ways to do that? In a sense, that's become one of his really big concerns today, you know, and that's what he will speak to. But as well, America, you know, he's you know, very involved and is aware of all the things that are going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, for instance, Larry King had him on before he left TV, had him on the show when there was a scandal about, you know, in this black politician scandal, and he had Hefner on the show to speak about that and to speak about the whole black situation, which Hefner did, and he knew exactly what was going on. And so, you know, he can still do that and has the name and the public image to be able to come out and say things as they are. Plus, he has his credentials in the way he has been over the years, always fighting for civil rights, fighting for the black cause. To him, it wasn't black people and white people, it was people. This is the way human rights, it's what it's about. You know, what is humanly right? A big, big thing for him.
Yeah, and like you said, people like that are really necessary, and to voice that, and he does that on different ways, Twitter, but also the magazine as well. It's if you read it, well, people say, well, the pictures, of course, there's the pictures, but the articles are of a really high standard, and really is how much involved is he still in the creating of the magazine?
Very, very involved.
Yeah,
you know, in
still.
the film, oh yes,
yeah.
You can see him actually, you know, like looking through the brown book, which is what the magazine looks like before it becomes the magazine. Every page is on its own brown paper, and it's this big, huge book.
Yeah.
And he will go through that and make sure that everything is right, and the centerfold, the cartoons, the articles, the interview, the cover, you know, all of that, you know, and he works on that with the editors in New York, in you know, in Chicago and in LA, and his hand is in everything, and that magazine will exist as long as he is alive, for certain. It's his life's blood, and it's what he created from nothing, just like that, in 1953, and here it is, still there.
So, for the magazine, he's kind of very on top of things and monitoring everything. How free were you to make whatever documentary you were making?
I was totally free. I had creative freedom from day one.
Yeah.
He never ever asked me who I was going to interview, what was going to be in it, nothing. You know, I could go through those archives, over 2,000 scrapbooks, and that's what I did. I looked at everything, I selected, I chose. No, never ever once. And sometimes he was in the scrapbook office when I was there. He was working on the future ones, and I'm going through the old ones, you know.
Right,
And we say hello, and then he is like involved in his work, and I'm involved in my work, and we just work independently. And not any control over the documentary whatsoever, which is important for a documentary filmmaker, because you have to make a film about somebody where that person cannot say, this you must show, and this you cannot show, you know. That film came out of my 3 years of research and going through everything and talking to a lot of people, and both the nay and the yay side, both very important.
Yeah, but It's balanced. It's really balanced. And
I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It was very important to me that it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when we opened in Los Angeles, Leonard Maltin did the Q&A afterwards with Hef and me, and he asked him, he said, were you, how did you feel to hear all those people say not so good things about you, Hef? And Hef laughed and he said, actually I thought there would be more. So I like that. I mean, when
Yeah.
he talks about freedom of speech, that is really what he means, freedom of speech, and it works both ways.
Yeah.
And again, he's a very honest person that way, and there aren't many people that you can, would want to do a documentary about that could be that open and honest and not interfering.
must have been, certainly in the early days, a lot of pressure to maintain his values, no?
Yeah, I mean, even Mike Wallace, when the very early interview, he didn't like Hefner, and says it right out, and kind of attacked him, and this is a girly magazine, and it's dirty pictures, etc., etc. Didn't think it was going to last, and then came around later and really has respect for Mr. Hefner in the film.
Yeah.
There was a lot of backlash against the magazine, against Mr. Hefner, because he was who he was. I mean, that magazine came out of nowhere. Suddenly, naked women, and et cetera, in Puritan America.
Yeah.
How dare they, And people were outraged, and many people were outraged. The
Yeah.
religious right was ready to crucify him, So he's been used
Still is,
to...
perhaps.
Oh, still is, absolutely. They, and they're very, very strong faction in America. But right from the beginning, he's been the kind of person, and I guess it's the strength that some people have and others don't, that he can deal with criticism, and keep going in spite of the criticism.
Yeah.
And sometimes even because of it, because it's got to go beyond that. Okay, you criticize, fine, I will continue, because it's important that I continue.
Yeah, because you believe in your life's work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, he's used to just about everything, every book having been thrown at him.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that any lawsuit or any court case that he's been involved in, he has always won.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Miss Commission wanted to brand him as pornographer. They had to take it back openly, publicly, and apologize. It's pretty big.
Yeah. So that's Hugh Hefner's life work. Your life work is documentary making.
And some drama.
And some drama, yeah. But you did a lot of documentaries for television mainly.
Television, and then also on my own.
Yeah, yeah. If you've got this huge subject with Hugh Hefner, where does the road take you now? Is there anything that can top this experience?
Oh, life itself will top anything.
Yeah.
There are so many interesting things to be done, and I've got certain things that I, want to now, a drama and also a documentary that I'm working on, and I keep getting new ideas. So
Yeah.
it all depends on where the money will, where
Yeah,
will I get
sure.
the money?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Funding
I
is
never
everything,
know.
I think.
Funding, and because to make these kinds of films costs money, so you have to have the money. And,
Yeah, like you said, you did years of research before even starting filming. So yeah, and you have to live as well.
yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
yes. You gotta eat.
Yeah, you gotta eat. Yeah. So, is there anything that's been that you see in your near future that you're going to tackle, subject that you're going to tackle, or is at this moment that not very clear?
It is clear. I just don't want to kind of mention it as of yet, because
Okay.
I feel it's bad luck if you
Yeah.
do.
It's
until
like seeing your bride in the gown.
Yeah,
for you.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so-
Yeah,
don't
so
know where that came from, but anyway,
that's okay.
yeah.
Good thought. But you just it's very personal and a creative choices, and
Yeah.
And they make themselves. Like, I didn't know I was going to make a film about Hugh Hefner the year before I made it.
Right.
So, and same thing about Artie Shaw. And then there it was, and then
Yeah.
the train went out the station.
And chance meetings can spark
Absolutely.
new ideas, new projects, or
Absolutely.
yeah.
And as a filmmaker, or anybody who's thinking about being a filmmaker, you've got to always be open and have your eyes wide open,
Yeah.
because you never know.
think that's a pretty good ending to this interview. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
And
very, very much for your time.
yeah, you're welcome, and good luck with this
Thank you.
documentary and the ones we don't talk about. Voilà.
Thank you.